Grand Rising, Grand Rising.
Grand Rising, Sophia the Bodhi.
Seems like I should
How's your
have like
week?
a title in front of that. I don't know. Now I'm
Yeah,
noodling that
I keep
around.
obviously I'm used to Chief, so it's
You
like
can
yeah,
still
the
call me Chief
body.
Sophia. It's no problem. Like, don't make it difficult. But I do probably need to still have a title. I just can't have
I
it in
do
my
think so,
name.
yeah.
Yeah, I can't
Yeah,
have
I
it in
think
my
a
name.
title it flows. It flows the
Yes.
title whatever title you decide, I think it
Gosh.
adds to the flowingness of it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to think of something now because we need a little bit. It needs a little bit of oomph. It's missing the
Definitely.
oomph.
Yes, it is, yeah. Uh-huh.
So this is a very, very interesting and exciting topic, and it goes right along with everything else. But I'll let you do a little uh sense of direction on where you want me to go with this, because you know how I
Sure,
am.
definitely, yeah. Um, well, I think as we've have been discussing, especially getting into the magic realm, as we're getting into magic, we basically like every aspect of our being is coming under scrutiny in terms of like I think at least from my perspective, and because I'm more of an outsider when it comes to the magic stuff, and now entering the magic scene, I am seeing how I perceived magic before I was in it and how I'm perceiving magic now that I'm getting into it. Obviously, I still have a ways to go, but I have I believe, a good outsider's perspective on what has been happening with the magic space. And it's very clear that the way that it has been pushed is extremely misaligned. It's very misaligned, obviously, in terms of how the system, it's like if the system is misaligned, the magic, just like everything else, is also going to be misaligned.
Right.
And in it being misaligned, that doesn't necessarily mean that the magic itself is wrong or incorrect. It just means that the people that are doing it really don't know actually what they're doing. They don't like they haven't had the guidance from God himself to uh enable them to do magic in an aligned way. Now, that does not mean that they did things wrong because obviously everything happens in divine timing. It's just that now in this current reality that we're living in, those that use magic in a misaligned way are really feeling the pushback. They're really feeling that misalignment. They're really feeling the reality that they haven't done the work necessary to actually do magic.
Right.
They've just had a wand, they just had these superpowers, they just had this knowledge, and they just kind of just were spraying it all over haphazardly, not really understanding what they're actually doing. And
Right.
so when it comes to something like the death and the rebirth, the birth, the death, and the rebirth, this is very important in terms of anything metaphysical. Is we have to have a very solid understanding of how do we die, how are we born, how are we reborn? Because if we're going to be doing magic at the highest levels possible, and we have not embraced death, we don't understand how to be reborn, it's not going to work. And that's what we've seen with a lot of the magic spaces. Like magic is really powerful, but it almost seems like magic has been used. It's like to keep slaves fixated on each other. And
Yes.
instead of trying to free themselves, it's like they're all just like whipping each other in check instead of using the magic to elevate and go beyond the slave masters. And that requires us to obviously have to die. Like we all have to die in our own individual ways, uh, from whatever slave-like mechanisms we had been imbued by the misaligned system. So obviously, I think talking about this topic and really understanding like what does that even look like, what does that even mean, is going to be very important for us to better understand. Okay, now that humanity is at a point where they have to die, people have to die right now,
Right.
and they don't, they're feeling significant pressure to die, but they're scared, they don't know how what it works, they don't know how it happens, because even though they have died many times, they really have never embraced it. And this time, this type of death is like a complete and total transformation, as well as, really, this is part of like the rehabilitation that we're doing,
Right.
where it's like, okay, you're being killed, you're the misaligned part of the peasants is being killed off in order to make way for the aligned divine um, being that is in the human.
Right.
So I think that's a good way to start the topic, and obviously happy for you to take it away.
Right. I think you made a lot of good points. So let's start with just what birth and death and then rebirth is, just at a basic level. Like, everybody is born, but people don't understand that there's like a process that comes before you're born. Like, you don't just open your eyes and here's the world. No, no, no. There's generations and generations and generations of things that has happened for you to enter the world at the time that you do, which is why your birthday, your birth chart, all this stuff is so significant, because it literally, know how to read it, tells you all the things that you've bought from previous life cycles into the current life cycle. So any birth is just you awakening to a new life cycle. Now, we go through multiple births every day. When we open our eyes in the morning, that's literally a birth or a rebirth. But still, it's birth. And so that energy that is imprinted in you, you are capable of bringing it from the night before. You, in general, we don't have any idea of how, when we go to sleep, that we wake up and we're still assembled in the same body. Like, there's no like logical way of understanding that. So most of what this birth, death, and rebirth cycle is about is removing the logical brain. Like, you cannot be logical about this and say, oh, I intellectually understand this, I read a science article about that. No, 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 no. You just have to basically like toss that out the window, because you really need to experience it first before you can go and apply the science to it. And that's what no scientist does. When I decided to get my master's and my doctorate both, I didn't do it back to back. I got my undergraduate degree, and then I was like, okay, well, I think I want to get an MSW, but I don't know. Let me go work with the population I want to work with. So I went out and I got a job working with teen moms. And I was like, they don't need more social workers. What they need is some money. They need some businesses. How do I help them with that? So then, instead of giving an MSW, I got an MBA. Okay, I get my MBA. So what do I do after that? I'm like, okay, now I want to go work with a small business and help them scale. What do? I go work with a small business, a restaurant, and I help them scale from, like, I guess 150,000, maybe 250,000 a year to $2 million a year. That's what I did. I got the experience, and then I went to get my doctorate. So people don't take enough time to reflect on the things that they learned from previous births before they start moving through into the death part. Because if a birth is you awakening to a new fact, a death is you closing the chapter or closing the door on an old fact, on an old truth. This is why people say the numbers don't lie. That's false, because numbers lie all the time. It just depends on how you interpret them. And if you get a new understanding, you'll have a new interpretation. This is the process. And so the rebirth is really that liminal space where you realize, hey, I'm giving up this old thought and I'm headed towards this new thought. Like, I know I have to have a new thought to replace it. And so I don't know what that new thought is yet, but that's the direction that I'm heading. That is the rebirth part of the cycle. And so in what I call this is folk magic again. And it's because there is no initiation in folk magic. In ceremonial magic, there's an initiation. So any practice that has an initiation, that is ceremonial magic, and therefore um that's not active. Like it, that had to be deactivated. We deactivated all of that when we did the cancel the dumb diverses, because like I said before, I knew people was doing magic on me. I didn't know why, I didn't know how. People thought I was crazy, but I could sense people in my energy that wasn't me. And so we just disabled all of the magic that was not running the system, powering the system, so people could have a chance to transition from the old system into whatever this new system is. Now the new system has been birthed, and it is this concept of this folk magic. Now it's not birthed, it's really being rebirthed, because this is how, prior to the installation of all of this ceremonial magic, this is how our ancestors across the planet operated. It was all based on, hey, I've got this cow and I've got to sacrifice it because this priest over here says I got to give a sacrifice to Athena or to Zeus, Apollo, whoever, and so, or God, Yahweh, who Muhammad or Allah, whoever. I got to give a sacrifice, so I need to make sure I raise this animal to be this way so that I can give this sacrifice. And then all the rules that go along with, making the sacrifices. So people were intimately aware with this whole concept. And I use that example in my thread of, knowing how to pick which cow that you want. And then if it's a male cow, it takes about 2 years to mature, but if it's a female cow, they will let it mature over 5 years in a commercial setting. In non-commercial settings, it's much longer. And then after they let it mature, they do still indeed perform the ritual sacrifice of the animal. These animals are literally born for these ritual sacrifices. They were created for these ritual sacrifices. And so I know the PETA people won't like that, but that's literally like the way that it is. Like, it wasn't humans who were created for ritual sacrifices, it was these animals. And so what you have is a ceremonial magic group, a priesthood that believes, no, let's keep the ritual animals and use them for something else, and let's sacrifice the humans instead of sacrificing the animals, totally putting this whole planet out of order. Like, this is the kind of stuff that we are not up against literally, but proverbially up against. So, because when you start looking into, because eventually you're going to pick up a book and you're going to say, okay, what is this magic book trying to like teach? What is their perspective? What do they want me to know? And depending on the author, you'll be able to tell what it is they're trying to actually achieve in their discussion of magic. And so when you're coming from a folk magic perspective, it's all about how to put the universe in the proper order. Folk magic does not go outside of the realm of, this is how the universe operates. The world operates like this. If I get a cow and I raise the cow, at a certain time, that cow is going to have to be a sacrifice. And once that sacrifice and we consume it, then that gives me the strength and the energy to raise another cow. Like, we are the stewards of the sacrifice. In the Bible, it talks a lot about the last sacrifice, the time of sacrifices being closed, all of these things. This is what they're talking about. The whole system of the folk performing the sacrifices by being stewards of the actual sacrificees, it's basically just removed from our culture, because we don't have those kind of relationships with animals anymore. We don't have those kind of relationships with our food anymore. And so all of these things have just basically thrown everything into chaos. And so to bring it back into like order, the first step is, what is birth and how do we use birth to achieve our goals? And so I'll talk a little bit just about birth before I go on to the other three, because it's a lot going on with that. So, as a person who has given birth 3 times, and who has assisted many others in their birthing process. The steps that lead you up to the birth are very many. There's no way to enumerate those number of steps. But it first starts with a conception process, which, well, I mean, since I'm talking about birth, I may as well go into it a little bit. This is what PBR, which is Pascal Beverly Randolph. I talked about him 3 months ago. He's like the black godfather of esotericism on the planet, because everybody used his esoteric research and nobody credits him. But the point of most of his research was talking about this whole sexual process, because you have to be able to engage in the sexual process successfully in order to even have a birth. And so in his book, Sexual Magic, he goes into how to set the mood so that you can birth these very special children that aren't like these rejects who just keep cycling back really fast because they know how to. There's a way that you call in a certain quality of child that you can't do if you are the female or the male is under immense stress. And so in his book, he goes into how to set the mood with music, how to set the mood with tone, and this is from like the 1850s. So we're talking about a music box music. We're talking about like lampshades and covers with a certain color. We're talking about like mixing your own perfumes to have the place smell a certain way. When I say this man had to be the player from the Himalayas, he was probably laying it down. Like these women probably couldn't even like think about it. It's 1850. You got a dude, he got the lights, he got the smells, he got the this and the that. He probably washes because a lot of people weren't really washing themselves properly at that time. So yeah, and his hair was always slicked back. I seen the pictures. I'm like, yeah, he was probably getting them. They you could not help but see, his thing was you only want to engage in these kind of practices with mature people, no, virgins, and no like basically like people who are underage, prostitutes or anything like that. He's like, no, you want a upstanding person. And basically he in the book he describes how from a male perspective how you go through this sort of ritual so that you produce one of these high vibrational children. Now, an old wives' tale, which I believe to be true, is if you want to have a boy, you have to engage in intercourse multiple times over a few days based on the ovulation window. If you want to have a girl, you only do it once in the ovulation window, and that's how you end up having girls. And I've seen several people talk about that. And in my own experience, I have 2 girls and a boy. I kind of feel like that's probably accurate. Um, yeah, I think that's probably accurate. So that's like the conception part. Then once you have conceived the idea, so this is like could be for a male or a female. Once you've conceived the idea, for a woman it would be obviously a child, but for a man it could be whatever it is, this thing that you want to see come into play. Then you basically have to monitor the situation. It ruminates inside your body. For a female, is an actual thing that's multiplying and dividing and splitting and all the stuff that's going on inside of your body. And so various nutrients begin to be transferred from the mother into the child so that the child is actually producing all the necessary body parts and they're getting strong and healthy and whatnot. If you are a male, this is when you start pulling from all of your experiences to feed this idea, like this thing that you want to accomplish, this spark of life, this spark of inspiration. You start pulling information, research, whatever it is from wherever you can within you to put into this idea. This would be like, again, like the research phase where you start to put like 2 and 2 together, see how things fit, see, what kind of things, that information you already have, maybe what resources you already have, stuff like that. In a female, the baby is developing, it's pulling nutrients and stuff from you. Sometimes people get sick, like morning sickness. Sometimes you have other, like issues going on, like high blood pressure, whatever. On a female, it puts a physical strain on the body to get this thing that's growing everything that it needs. It does not matter whether you need it or not. And that's how the birth process is. When you're birthing something, it doesn't matter if you yourself need it or not. That's irrelevant. Once you have this thing that you are literally putting your energy into to see flourish, you can just forget about your own needs. Now you're focusing on the needs of this thing and what this thing is going to do once it actually comes through the portal, whatever that may mean. And so for women, this is a 9-month process. So as you get through the first trimester, you're basically just running around, which is about 3 months, right? So you're about running around. You don't know what's going on. You kind of like whatever. Some women, the second trimester, that's when they start to show, and they start to get a little bit more sluggish. They can't do as much because the actual physical thing that they're going to birth has grown so much that you actually, your body can't support it. Then there's people like me who don't find out, at least I 2 pregnancies. I didn't know I was pregnant until maybe a month before. Maybe. And I think that's even late. So you have somebody like me whose body, I already trained my body to put enough nutrients in it. I already followed my intuition on things that I needed to eat, if I needed to slow down, if I didn't feel good or whatever. I already trained myself to, hey, if I'm not feeling good, I am not doing anything today. I'm not pushing myself. I'm not this. I'm not that. So I don't go to the doctor. I didn't need to go to the doctor. I didn't know I was pregnant. It didn't matter. If I was going to have a baby, I was going to have one. If I wasn't, it didn't matter. I wasn't getting involved in that because I knew how I felt and I felt fine. And so eventually you get to like the last week, the last 2 weeks. And that is the very, I would say it's like the most scary time in general, but it's also the most intense time because you can feel that the energy that you've put into the child or to the idea has it's reached its fullness. It's reached as much as you can yourself physically put into it, right? You can't put no more into it. There's nothing left for you to do. And so once that's the case, then you're just kind of waiting for the thing that you've birthed to exude the spark of life, meaning it decides it is ready to come forth through the portal. And that's how it is with ideas. Like you can work on an idea until you're blue in the face. That idea is not coming out and like producing itself until it is ready. Like it when you conceive it, it also carries the signature of its birth in its conception. And I read a book, one of the very first, not the whole book, I don't think, but one of the very first books I read back in 2022 when I started researching into magic was a book where they talked about when to conceive so you can have a child that has certain faculties, when to give birth, what to name the child, how to name the child, when to engage in the sex. It was a very, very detailed. Matter of fact, I need to go back and find that book because they probably took all of that stuff from PBR, but it was very, very detailed. And I was disturbed because I was like, you mean to tell me these people have these children that are geniuses or like really attractive or whatever the case may be? They're not doing it naturally. They're literally like following a list that says, hey, you need to engage in sex at this time, in this location, in this manner, because I also talked about the positions and all of that. It was real specific and it was creepy. Now, when I read PBR's book, it wasn't creepy. That's how you know, it wasn't creepy the way he was describing it, but the way these people were describing it, it was creepy and it was disgusting. And I was like, oh, they're like, yeah, if you want your kid to have dark features, if you want them to have light features, if you want to have blue eyes, you need to have sex at Monday at 5 o'clock. Like, what in the world? This is like crazy stuff. And it's like, oh my gosh, people really believe this. But of course, now, fast forward, it's like, yeah, of course, that's why you have like a Hunter Biden. How else could you have someone like Hunter Biden? Like, it would have to be some kind of weird sexual ritual. Like, there's no way there's just like pumping out Hunter Bidens around here. Like, that would be nuts. So once you get to the end of the pregnancy cycle and the idea, the concept, the baby is just about ready to be born, this is where you go into the absolute unknown. Because even if you give birth 100 times, you still never know if you're going to come out of that birth alive. Black women especially are prone to weird things happening. And I could talk about that. I'm not just, it's, Black women are prone to weird things happening. And so you have to, before you go into the experience, decide that you're going to live. Like, and then you have to spend all of your energy making sure that happens. And that's what happens with the idea. If you have an idea that you put all of this emotional, whatever energy into, thinking about it, praying about it, researching and all this stuff, you haven't taken the action yet, but you just put the energy into it to be able to birth it, to bring it out into the world, to present it to, someone, anyone, as an actual physical product. You never know if you're going to make it through that process, because you get to the end and you're just fiddling around with details and you're like, dang, I don't know if it's ready. Maybe I should wait. Is this the right time? Look at the calendar, look at the astrology, listen to this one, listen to that one. Like, it's very it's a very dangerous time, because you can get to this point and abort your idea. Like, and not abort a child, obviously, could die in childbirth, or in the case of childbirth, the mother could die in childbirth. So you have to really be focused on, I'm going to make it through this in one piece, and this child is going to make it through this in one piece. And that's it. Like, that is the goal. Like, everything else all these people are talking about, it doesn't matter, because I need to live and this child needs to live. And so once you have that as your goal, like, we're going to live through this, then you can actually not necessarily enjoy the experience a little bit more. It really depends on the nature of the whole pregnancy, but in general, you can get through it without the so much of the unnecessary trauma. And so then people think, okay, once you birth the thing, in the case of a child, or in the case of idea, you birth the thing, then you're like, whew, I'm done the hard part. That's a damn lie, because then the baby gets cleaned off. If it's the idea, you take it to somebody and you're like, what do you think about this idea? You run it past them. They give you a whole laundry list of things that's wrong, how to fix it, how to make it better, what you miss, all your thinking. You still didn't think about this part, that part, all these different little tools and tricks and stuff that needs to be done. So now you've got this baby, or you've got this project, and it's perfect and it's beautiful and you're holding it and you love it. And somebody is telling you, hey, that's a boy, we need to circumcise him. Like, we need to put him with a bunch of shots. Or, yeah, you don't need to breastfeed yet. Let us bottle feed him. Like, you're just like, and then then the fight begins, because now you're fighting with this one, you're fighting with that one, you're considering all the options and all the possibilities. Do they need this? Do they need that? Do they, how are you going to handle this? What are you going to name it? Oh, what are you going to name the child? You got to decide what you're going to name it before you leave the hospital, which is retarded, but that's what they say. You got to decide. So now, did you come up with a name beforehand? Are you committed to that name? Do you like the way that it sounds? When you look at the child, does it seem like they should have that name? All this stuff comes up. And it's the same thing with your idea. Maybe you developed a product, you kind of thought about what you would name it, you start talking to the person, and they're like, that's the stupidest name I ever heard. Dang, man, your heart is it's broken, because you thought it was a really good idea and a great name, and they're looking at you like, this is the stupidest thing I ever heard of. Why would anybody buy this? Why would you do this? Why would you waste your time on that? And if you think they don't say that about kids, they absolutely say that. Why would you have a kid? Aren't you too young to have a kid? Aren't you too old to have a kid? Don't you not have anywhere to live? What about your food? What about your career? What about this? What about that? Why would you ruin your life by having kids so early? Why didn't you wait? Like, no one lets up on you. If you're a female that has a child, even me, I was older. I didn't have my oldest child, I didn't have her until I was 22. And I was still getting questions like, well, why didn't you do this? Well, why did you do that? Don't you think you should have did this? You should have started your career. I thought you're going to do this. I thought you're going to do that. It's like, okay, but I have a baby. Like, this is what I really lived my whole life for up to this point was to have this child. That was my perspective. Everyone around me, no. You were supposed to go to school, get you a good government job, move your way up through the ranks, and then, when you're 40 and, your eggs are old and you old, that's when you're supposed to have a child. And I was just like, absolutely not. Because at the same time, I had my oldest daughter, my cousin, who was 39, had her only child. So this is not like, for me, it's a real thing. This is what really happened to me. Instead of people celebrating the fact that I was having this child and I was married, because I was already married, it didn't matter. They would rather I had not had the child and just continued on in my own birth process and never moved to the next phase, which is the death process. Because when you birth something, a part of you dies. Once I became a mother, I was no longer a non-mother. And I'll never go back to being a non-mother. I will always be a mother till the day I die. They can never take that from me. And I think one of the insidious things that they're doing to Gen Z is making it so that they don't want to become mothers. So that they have a problem with that. And so they never, a lot of them are just really miserable because they were born. If you're a woman, you were born to be a mother. I will argue that point with anybody. I don't argue it anymore, but I know it to be true. If you're a woman, you are born with woman parts. You are born to be a mother. That's period. That's really like the most of your function. Now, does that mean you're supposed to be submissive to your husband and all this stuff, and or have 12 children? No, nobody's saying that. But the highlight, the culmination point of your life is when you go from single personhood to being a mother. That's how it works. No matter what anybody says, close the door. So, and people lie about that to the younger generation all the time. It's very insidious. So the birth process is a lot of different parts to it just to get to like actually coming into the light, to coming through the portal. But like when you are in the maiden energy, which is the same thing, like it's the birthing process, you are constantly going through the portal and learning new things. Every time you learn a new thing, you are literally being born again, because it's not just being baptized. It's literally, oh, you learn how to walk because you have all these firsts. So once you're born, then you have the first time that you drank, the first time that you poop, the first time that you blow out the diaper, the first time that you take a bath, the first time when your what's the name falls out from your umbilical cord. You have first haircuts, first day of school, first crush, first this, first that, all of these first. So in the maiden process, you're constantly being born, constantly having this birth process, just over and over every day, really experiencing the world as if it's new, because the world is new to you. And all the way up until you get into the mother energy, which is the death process, which is probably around 36. Like, I don't suggest people start astrologically, right? Or astrologically, I'll just say it that way. I don't suggest people start making huge cuts to their personality until they turn 36. Because when you turn 36, you have to make the changes. So since the changes are going to come more naturally at 36, you kind of are better off waiting until 36 to make a bunch of changes. And some people think that that's really old. And that doesn't mean you should wait till you're 36 to have kids. That doesn't mean you should wait till you're 36 to do anything. It's just, if you're going to make huge, major life decisions, you should be about 35 or 36, because that's when the energy naturally switches for you in your chart, and it'll make the making the changes easier. So like, I always wanted to live in Florida my whole life. I never even been to Florida, and I wanted to live in Florida. And when I was in high school, I came down here 3 or 4 times. I wanted to live in Florida. And then after high school, my best friend, went to Miami, and he was living there, and he went to school there, and I wanted to go to Florida, and I got accepted to University of Miami, but I just couldn't do it. Like, it was just making that huge of a move at 18 is it's not favorable in general, but it really wasn't favorable for me and what I was dealing with in my family and stuff like that. So once I turned 35, that's when my grandmother was already gone, and so I really didn't have anything holding me, cementing me down to where I'm from. I could finally make the move to Florida. So that's when I moved. And I'm like, I'm here now. I won't have to make another move like this probably until I'm 80, and probably won't do it because where am I going to go? Like, unless I'm going to move to Hawaii or something, live on a tropical island, I don't really see why I need to do that because Florida is like a tropical island all in and of itself. So, but that's would be the natural time when I would make another huge move like that would be around 80. So that's not.
And why 80? What's the
Oh,
80 about?
okay. So excuse me, this goes into the astroterography tree of life, which is my tree that I came up with. And basically the way it works is you it's just like the Sephiroth on the Kabbalistic tree of life. Mine are in a little bit of a different order, but there's a path that you take that's not like the regular Kabbalah. Anyway, I'll have to go into that in another discussion. But you go through what I call it the roots of the tree, which is your birth chart placements. You go through that cycle twice. So from 0 to 9, you cycle through your entire roots of the tree. And then from 9 to 18, you cycle through the same things again. So, for example, when you're 9, whatever major issues you have at 9, you probably had them again at 18, at 8 and 17. Like the years add up. So, whatever was going on the year you were born, when you turn 9 times out of 10, you're going through the same thing. Now, that has to also it also lines up with the nodal cycle. But I didn't line it up with that. That's not originally how I came up with it. I just realized afterwards. I was like, oh, this is also the nodal cycle. So from 0 to 18, 18 is when you have your first nodal return. So at 36, you have your second nodal return. So that's why I said 80, because you're about 36. It's probably be about 70 actually when you have your fourth nodal return, and then you kind of cycle back to that energy again. So every 18 years, and people who aren't old enough can't see these cycles. So this is why you have the grandmother energy, which is the crone, that can tell the younger generations how this energy plays out. The only reason I know is because my friend is older. So she's already been through two of these cycles. So she told me, she was like, yeah, 35 to 40 is really hard, but around 40 start to get better. And she, well, haven't been proven 100% right, but I can definitely feel the change in the energy, as opposed to when I was at 35 and 36. I was miserable. It was horrible. Everything was falling apart. And then now about 40, it's starting to come back together. So that's also another thing. People between the ages of 35 and 40, you probably shouldn't even listen to them because they don't know what they're talking about. Like, they're experiencing a nodal return, like, which is already hard enough by itself. Plus, another thing that happens is, I'm sorry, from 0 to 18, you repeat the roots of the tree twice. So from 0 to 9, and then from 9 to 18. From 18 to 36, you repeat your 18th birthday tree, which is based on your birth chart placements, progress to your 18th birthday. You repeat that twice. So from 18 to 27, and then 27 to 36, you repeat that energy. Now, when you turn 36, you don't get a whole year to process every energy on your tree. Every year you get a new set of energy. So you have to have learned how to process that energy from 0 to 36 by the time you turn 36, because at 36, the energy changes every 36 days. every 36 days you get a new energy on the same sort of progressions, based on the progressions for your year. And every year you get another set of energies, another set of energies. Now I also like figured out like everything doesn't change every year. You have milestone years where a lot of stuff change. So like 45, you get like some new placements that you don't have. It's a lot of like stuff that takes a long time to change. Certain things in your chart never. So you don't get a handle on it as a young person, you never really get away from it unless you live to be more than 250 years because excuse me, Pluto has a 250-year transit. So the only way you get to change that energy is to live 250 years. Then that's long enough for it to change. Other than that, that energy never changes. Even Uranus has a 84-year transit, so that energy never changes. So yeah, that's why I said the 80, because you would have to be at your, I guess probably around your fourth nodal return.
So basically, from 0 to 36, you are like building the foundation of managing these energies.
Yes. Who you are. You're literally birthing yourself.
Mm.
You're not even, people think that they're born and then they're born. No, actually, you're not really like done being born until you turn 36. Then you go into mother
Wow.
energy. Yeah. Then you go into mother energy, which is basically at 36, that's when you start to really like kill parts of yourself where you're like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. So like, for example, this year I turned 40, and for the very first time in my whole life, I did not spend it with people that I grew up with. This is the first year in 40 years I did not spend my birthday with people I grew up with. Basically, people who hated me, essentially. And it took this long to. I didn't do anything
Mm.
this year that I did not do anything this year that I always do. I usually go to McCormick and Schmick's because I got the birthday thing. I didn't do that. I didn't do anything I normally do. I did the exact, and it wasn't like I planned it. I just didn't do the stuff that I normally do. Like it was very weird. I just didn't even have a desire to. I didn't have no desire to go home. I didn't have a desire to be around nobody I knew. I didn't even call nobody. I was like, I don't need any of this stuff in my life. I was around all new people, all new energy, all new everything. It was very like different. But it took this long. And it was again building up from when I turned 36. But this year was a year I saw the actual manifestation of it.
Well, it's very interesting because right now, for a lot of millennials, and millennials right now are basically around that age range, more or less,
Right.
like early 30s to like late 30s. A lot of them have been in the corporate workforce now for at least 10 years or so, more or less.
Right.
And
Right.
due to the economy, due to layoffs, at least on TikTok, I have seen a lot of these millennials like basically talking about going back to live with their parents and basically like
Yep.
trying to figure out, like realizing that like this is just not it. The corporate world for them is not it. And so
Yep.
as you were saying, it's like it's what seems to be happening currently because it seems like these cycles are just much more pronounced and intense than before. And I think it's partly because we are transitioning into a new system. So like the 36, I mean any of these cycles, right? Because it's not just, oh, after you're 36 everything's already established. It's like every of these nodal returns now are going to be even more impactful and powerful than they were previously, both because I think we are
Yes.
individually becoming aware, but second as well is just because, and we see that with the millennials, they're beginning to move towards 36, or they are in that range, and they are just sick and tired of their like shitty life. They just cannot continue sucking the tit of the misaligned system.
And
So
it's
it's
really
very
because at 36, the energy switched from learning one lesson per year. Like you it don't sound like it's a
mm,
lot, but it's because the lessons I've tied it all to the tarot cards, right? Because if you have a visual picture, it's much easier. So when you go from taking 1 year to have one major lesson that you learn in a year to every 36 days, and it seems random, like it's like, whoa, wait a minute,
wow.
what is
Oh
happening
my
here?
gosh, right.
Whoa, what is that? Why is this so much different than I just did this last week and it worked? Now I'm doing it, it's not working. Like
Mm,
you, if you've been someone who ignored all of the signs
right,
for
right.
36 years, and
Oof.
at 36, you get started hit every 36 days, and you're like, I don't even know what's happening to my life. Like you vaguely, because when you have a year to learn a lesson, like that's the theme of the year. The
Yeah.
whole year is based around that. So when you get hit with that lesson, like once you turn 36, it's not a whole year to solve the problem. Now
Mm,
you've got 36 days to solve the problem. And if you don't solve this problem by about day 30, that means whatever energy it's because it's assigned to a planet, whatever energy it's assigned to, it's about to just make you learn it. So it's not just like, oh, this is so gentle that I've moved into this 30. No. It's like boom, 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 boom. like you're not learning the lesson. You didn't learn it. Like, okay, I'm gonna smack you again.
right.
All right, and I'm gonna send you off to the next one. And they're like, okay, I just overcome this huge, insane problem. Here comes another huge, insane problem that I didn't even know was coming. Like, and it's like that for and so your life literally turns into something you've never experienced before, and not by a little bit, by a lot of bit. And imagine people don't even. I just came up with this. This is not written down anywhere. No one can
Mm.
explain this stuff. No one talks about this. I've read so many self-help books. I
No,
cannot
yeah,
even tell you,
these self-help books are crap.
but they don't. No one's talking about it like this. This is literally like mapping your life has a purpose. Like the whole point of my thread with the birth and the death and the rebirth is your life has a purpose, and it's in your chart. And you don't have to wonder, what am I here to do? It literally is in your chart. If you will listen to someone who will tell you the truth about it, these astrologers are lying. The vast
Yeah, it
majority
has
of
to
them
be
are liars.
someone that knows what they're
Yeah.
talking about because like I mean, without besides you, I don't know who else is worthy of like providing like this type of guidance, this type of clarity. It's just it's non-existent.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
And I think, you know, as you were saying with kind of when you turn 36, every 36 days, like it's just one after the other. Um, I'm not 36, but I feel like I feel as I have been doing the energetic work and as I've learned to better absorb, alchemize, and flow with the energy that is like really embracing reality instead of like kind of separating or trying to create a barrier between me and reality is I'm going through these types of cycles. Like I'm going through these like I literally feel like it's
No,
like
you still have the cycles. It's just not with a different energy. It's the same energy. Like
oh, okay,
that's what
okay,
I mean. So
okay, right.
everybody, okay, so let me re-explain this a little bit. Everybody has a 36-day cycle. Everybody. From
Mhm.
the time you're born to it's everyone has this same 36-day cycle. And we also have a 36-day cycle for the planet. And we have a 36-day cycle for the country. So there's multiple sets of 36-day cycles running simultaneously. Okay. But the ones for us personally, it's just that it's like every 36 days and then the lesson repeats. That's how you can learn how to solve the lesson. So even though you're not experiencing a new lesson
Mm,
every 36
right,
days,
right.
you're experiencing the same lesson that's reinforcing your capacity to solve the problem because you're tuned in, and you're aware of what's going on. But people who aren't aware, They just notice that they keep solving these same problems. They're getting better at it, but they don't understand that it's a preparation for what's coming when you turn 36. Me, I can feel, when I say I can feel when the energy is switching. When I first started documenting this, I was like, okay, my energy switch. What was that? Because a lot of it was, I thought it was somebody doing something to me, and people were doing things to me, but also it was this new way the energy was flowing.
Right.
That there's no books about this. They talk about it, but there's no comprehensive philosophy that explains what's going on. And Rudolf Steiner does talk about it a little bit when it comes to like the Waldorf education, but it's not, you can't apply that exactly the way that he describes it to when you become an adult. So what I did was take some of those concepts of the Waldorf education and apply it to literally how the energy actually moves like all the time. It's not just one or the other. So yeah, every 36 days your energy is switching, and you just get a new lesson in the same book.
Okay, so let's say for example, this year's theme for myself. Now, this is just an example. I don't think it's actually real, but is love. Does that mean that every 36 days, like let's say um, I am embracing the energy to the best of my abilities? Does that mean that every 36 days it's like I'm able to level up when it comes to that theme?
Yeah, you would learn a new lesson because it's still influence. I mean, there's still other things influencing it, right?
Right, of
So
course.
there's a lot. I mean, I can't even put it into words, but there's other things influencing. So I do it in terms of the tarot cards, right? So let's say, for example, it's the Six of Wands, which the Six of Wands I call the triumphant entry. It's where the guy is riding into town, he's on a horse, everybody's got their palm branches up, and they're all celebrating. That's a triumphant entry. So if that's your theme for the year, because you're in, let's say that's where your Venus is, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Every 36 days, you're going to have a win, and it's going to feel like a triumphant entry for that particular part of the lesson.
Okay.
And this
And so
will
it's about
repeat
how
for
do
the,
you manage the win? How do you
well, if in some, it depends. There's lots of when. I mean, people think winning is actually multidimensional because
right?
it's one thing to you have different arenas where you have to learn how to win. You have to learn how to win at home. You have to learn how to win at the job. You have to learn how to win with your parents. You have to learn how to win with your friends. You
Yeah.
have to learn how to win within yourself.
Right,
You have to
right.
learn how to win by your hands, by
Yeah.
your feet, by your face, by your, it's lots of parts. Like your mind has to learn how to win. Then you got different parts of your mind, like your left brain, your right brain. Like it's a lot of different pieces of you that have to actually learn how to win. And then if it's based on Venus, Venus is love. So that's the planet of love. So it's about learning how to win with love. Like, not I'm better than you. You suck. Why are you getting this wrong? You're stupid. You should have listened to me. I told y'all I would be right. So on and so forth. That kind of thing. Like, how do you learn the lesson? Because you could learn the lesson of winning, but you could still fail because it's Venus, and you're supposed to do it with love, with kindness, and not with, making fun of people. That would be like an Aries thing, like a Mars. If you had Mars there, then you would be triumphant entry and stomping on your enemies. That's where, all of these things can play out like differently based on what the actual placements are. Plus, again, all of this energy you have is interacting with the larger cycles,
Right.
the planetary cycles, the galactic cycles, the country cycles, because if you're in a particular country, you have to deal, with the cycles that come along with that particular country too.
Definitely, for sure. So yeah, is this do you are you implementing this in the calendar? Like is this like a supplemental part of the calendar? How do
Okay,
you see this
so
playing a role in your overall kind of calendar?
the calendar is the planetary cycles and also the the country cycles in the case of like America and our cultural cycles, okay, here in America.
Mm-hmm.
The way this interacts with you personally is if you have a day that lands on like one of these portal days, or like you're in a particular cycle, you can tailor that personally towards you. So like if I was working with somebody, and I do this all the time, they're like especially once I've already pulled their chart and I have it and it's like I can refer back to it, they're like, okay, I'm trying to figure out when we should do this, when we should do that. And I could look at their personal cycle and say, okay, so for the next 36 days, you're going to be in this energy. I might not do that, except on, let me look at the larger cycle. Oh, we have a portal day. Do it on this day because that's a portal day. Portal days are always going to be good days for us, or vow days. Those are going to be good days. So, or I might say, oh, we have a holiday, or like, or like the Feast of Trumpets we just had, or the Day of Atonement. Like, oh, you want to do something? Oh, I would, even though it's in this 36 days where that's how you have good energy, don't do it on the Day of Atonement, because the Day of Atonement's got different energy to it. You don't want that to interact with that other energy and create more problems. Like, it's that kind of stuff. So that's the calendar is the bigger picture. You still have to have your, and the calendar will work for most people. Most people are not going to have the capacity to get down into the details with their own schedule, that they're going to manage it like this, because most people don't have the capacity for it, because it takes a lot. Like, it takes so much to just always be thinking, okay, I know this cycle's going on, that cycle's going on,
Right.
this is on, like, this is a lot. So you have to work your way up to being able to manage all this information, because it's just not easy. But for the vast majority of people, they only need the major calendar. But if you're like a top 1% person, you would want to know all of these. Like,
Yeah,
for
of
example,
course.
the whole thing with like Jeff Bezos, right? He picked the worst possible day to get married because he didn't look at the bigger schedule. He only looked at his own personal information and was like, okay, this day is going to be good for me because it's the start of the this and the home and the woman and all this stuff. That's what he was looking at. He failed to look at the bigger cycle. That's what I mean. Their astrologers are doing a terrible job. Do you know they pulled the astrology on it? And astrologers told him, oh yeah, you'll be able to get money for your business if you get married on this day. And they looked at his astral cartography, and they said, yeah, get married here based on your astral cartography. And they did everything. And they were all wrong because they didn't consider these other cycles. These are folk cycles,
So is
not
partly the issue with what he did was that he did it to serve himself instead of like aligning himself to the greater good? Could that be a
yes.
part of why
Yeah,
it was such a fuck up?
absolutely. Absolutely. He tried to specifically harness the energy of the divine feminine by marrying this weird woman so that his business could be a household name, continue to be a household name. He used her as a household idol, basically. That's what he did. He used her as a household idol. Her energy as a
And
household idol.
so the 36 days basically starts the day you're born. That's and then
No. Okay, that's another thing. No, it doesn't.
mm,
So the day okay, I said it was a 10-month cycle, and I lied a little bit. It's actually 11, but it's not a whole 11 months. It's 11 because the 2 days before your birthday and the 2 days after your birthday um is its own separate month, because each one of those 5 days basically gives you the flavor for how your year is going to play out. So if you think about the 2 days before your birthday and the 2 days after your birthday, those themes, especially before you turn 36, those are the themes that play out for your whole year. Because that 5 days, I call it your birthday month. So literally it that 5 day period it's like in closing out the last cycle and starting a new cycle, and with your birthday being right in the middle. So it's actually on the scale of 11 and not of 10 when you include that. And for some, but it's not on the tree of life, which is so it's not in the Kabbalistic part of the um like a path working. It's more so like energetically, what is this? What is the theme for your year going to be? And literally it's encased in those 5 days. So like for me, what was it, the day before my birthday, I went to Fogo de Chao, and I took my daughter and one of her friends, and because like I said, they're all things I've never done before. Well, my daughter had said that her dad was going to pay for it, so we get to the place, and the bill was like $250. And I was like, okay, you tell him what the bill is. She texted him. He called me. What do you mean the bill is $250? I was like, okay, all right. Like, you don't have to yell. That's how much the bill is. It's $250. Well, I don't have $250. I'm not paying that. Okay, that's fine. Don't worry about it. I'll figure something out. And I hung up the phone and I paid the bill and we left. It was no problems. But I know now that's going to be a theme throughout the year. Me spending money on food is always going to be to food that makes me happy, that brings me joy, is going to be an issue for someone else to pay for. So I have to be prepared to pay for my own food this year. I don't know why that is going to be important because it seems stupid, but that was a very significant thing. Like, it was extremely significant because he was practically foaming at the mouth over this 250. And I'm like, okay, like it's $250. Like, I don't understand how much you think it's gonna cost. Like, we didn't go to Red Lobster. Like, what do you think is gonna? I don't even eat at places like that. So I don't, it just is what it is. But he was like practically foaming at the mouth. It's like, okay, all right, rabies. We'll figure it out. And I didn't care. I didn't even, again, because I know how this energy works, I could have been like, put up a toll booth. All right, I'm not leaving this restaurant till you
Yeah,
send me this
right.
money. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, no,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't put up a toll booth. I didn't get emotional about it. I still don't care. He haven't given me no money for that. To this day, he said he's going to give me $150 for it. He haven't given me zero. I don't care. Whatever. Like, these people are trying to force me into having an emotional reaction over money. I won't do it.
Mm.
I just won't do it. I don't care. Like, I went to get something to eat today. I ordered my food. The guy gave me some stuff I didn't order. Like, I didn't want that. Still charged me for it. I'm like, you know what? Am I going to complain about $5 or $10? I'm gonna pay this bill. I'm gonna leave. I say I'm just gonna pay. That's when I realized, oh, this is my theme for the year. This is going to constantly show up. So I have to either be more careful when I order or not care when I order. Like, I just know that they're going to end up
And
overcharging
specifically with
me,
food.
specifically with food, because my
Mm.
north node is in Taurus. Taurus is related to home and food and stuff like that. So it's all home, and I don't like go and get my nails and stuff done like that. So it's that's the only place it has to show up in my, because that's another thing. When you know where something's going to show up in your life, you can do different things so it shows up differently. So instead of it showing up in me cooking, because that would be a much worse situation if everything I was trying to cook, I was always trying to cook, and it was always some horrible mistake. So instead of it showing up there, now I've changed to, okay, when I go out, it's always going to be some kind of miscommunication. It's not going to matter. I'm just going to keep it moving and just expect to spend 10 $15 more than what I plan every time I go out. Okay, that's a much easier way to deal with the problem than having problems in the house. I would rather show up like that than show up in other ways in general. But because it's my north node, it also tells me that I'm in the energy I'm supposed to be in. Because if I was not in my north node energy, this would be irrelevant all the way around. It wouldn't matter because and really, right now on my personal calendar, I'm in South Node energy. So the fact that I'm still channeling in North Node energy while I know I'm in South Node energy, yeah, that's a win. That's a huge win. It's very, very difficult to maintain North Node energy. Extremely difficult.
So what would it look like if you weren't maintaining that energy?
I would put up a toll booth every time something went wrong, or
Okay,
I would
right.
just not go out at all. I'd be like, oh, I'm just telling you this, right? And I'm like, I don't care. I could be like, yeah, I went to vote with a child, and he said he was gonna pay. I've done this. This has been me. Oh my gosh, I would call my dad. Dad, somebody said they were gonna pay for this, but they didn't pay. So can I get some money so that I can pay for this because they said they were gonna pay for it? That would me. That's what I would do. I would call, I would complain until somebody out there did something.
Right.
That's what I would do. That's what it would look like. Me, I'm like, I just came to spend like $20. Now I'm spending almost $30. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and take the L. It's not that serious. It's
Yeah, keep it
literally
keep
not
it
that.
moving.
Yeah, keep it moving. I'm not gonna call my dad and spend the next 3 hours complaining about this guy who, but that's what I would normally do. And I had just recently
Mm.
decided that I'm not going to call my parents to complain. That's what I
Wow.
always used to do. I would call my parents to complain. And I just, like, literally this morning, I said, I cannot call them to complain. Like, if I want to talk to them, that's fine. But I cannot call them to complain because that is not moving the needle anywhere. But that has been my whole life. Every time I have an issue, I will call them to vent to them to see what they thought. But my parents, they're not necessarily have the capacity to function at this vibrational level. So me calling to vent to them is actually me lowering my vibrational level to get on a level where they can understand my venting.
Mm.
Whereas I probably should just shut up about it and move on. Like, okay, I need to solve the problem. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Instead of fussing and crying and complaining about the problem for, a whole, day, 2 days because this person did this and this person, forget it. Like, let me just solve the problem. And if anybody asks me about it later, I'll tell them, but I won't be emotional about it later. I'm emotional about it now. So
So
I
how
just
does
tried to
this
squash
how
all that.
does this tie, because I mean this I think this is a great, very very interesting what you're like experiencing. How does this tie with this death and rebirth? Because I think this is, it seems like it's a death, but it's also like a rebirth. Like like there's kind of like a mix of the two. Because like a part of you is
So,
dying, which is that part that you just
right,
mentioned, and then you're also now being reborn in this new way, but it's almost like you're kind of like in the two still. It's like that you're still in this space where your being is like it's like you're seeing yourself leaving an older aspect of yourself and like stepping into this new aspect, but you haven't been almost fully born yet, because like at least I would feel like when one is born, it's like you're walking, you're running. Like it seems like what you're doing is you're letting
right.
go and you're beginning to start taking your steps, and then obviously very soon you're just going to be running. Like you're just going to be off to the races in this specific
Right.
scenario.
So this is kind of like the rebirth cycle. So you can't get through the rebirth cycle by yourself. That's for one. So because I have a friend that's older than me, I can be, even though um we're more on the same level vibrationally, when I talk to her about an issue, she can reflect back to me an appropriate response.
Okay, yeah.
Because when you engage with people who are not, if you engage, not engage, if you vent specifically, or like, no, engage it. When you over engage with people, personally engage with people who are not on the same vibrational like
Yeah, right.
level as you, then what they do is they reflect back to you their
Mhm.
vibrational
Right.
level. And so in order to relate to them, you bring yourself
Mm.
like down to their vibrational level. So it doesn't mean that you don't talk to people. Like, I talk to all kinds of people that aren't on my quote unquote vibrational level, because it's not a level as in I'm
Right.
better than you're worse. It's not it. It's just I've done a lot of work and maybe you're not on that path yet. And it's
Mhm.
fine. Everybody can be where they are. But it's just you always want to approach people with you always want to reflect back to them, reflect to them what they should be reflecting to you. So,
Mm.
like in the case with my parents, I should be reflecting to them, I got enough money to pay for everything. I ain't worried about nothing. And I'm taking care of myself and I'm fine. Because that's what they should be reflecting back to me. Is that what they're reflecting back to me? Not at all. Zero. I could go into extreme detail, but that's not that's not what's being reflected onto me. And so as a result, like, I have to, someone just has to walk you through the process. And so luckily for me, I have someone who can reflect back onto me what I'm trying to accomplish and where I'm going. And that's the crone energy. That's the grandmother energy.
Mm,
And so, and it's not just a grandmother like you have in this physical realm, but there's women who came before you who are helping to guide you from the spirit
mm,
realm. That will be your ancestors. And so even if you don't have a physical person like I do to talk to, that's who's coming through. Or like, again, Saint Anna, that's the grandmother of Jesus. She is one that has taken on this mantle on this planet of this grandmother energy that is, she, you know, trying to be reflected back into the people. But there's not enough people going through the death process, because the death process is like this. You're it's not that you're not going through the birth process anymore, because that's not what it is. But the death process is more like replacing some of the births that you had. Like, if you learned a new thing, when you go through the death process, you may take that new thing that you learned and replace an old thing. Like, if I always learned that 2 plus 2 is 4, and then I learned that 2 in parentheses to the first degree plus 2 is like 5 or something, then I replace a new fact with an old fact. So it's like somebody says, oh, 2 plus 2 is 4. I say, yeah, but it could be 5. I replace an old fact with a new fact. And the person who said 2 plus 2 is 4 doesn't know this new fact that 2 plus 2 could be 5, based on, you know,
yeah.
whatever kind of math thing. So I've replaced that. So that's a death. I've died to the fact that 2 plus 2 can only be
Right,
4.
right.
And now I'm embracing the fact that 2 plus 2 could also be 5. Or 1 plus 2 could be 3. 1 plus 2 could be 4. It depends on a lot of other factors. You don't know what that 1 even means. Is it 1 or is it 11? Like, there's a lot of different things going on here. You can't fail you can't ignore the fact that things aren't what the way that they seem. That's when you're in the death process. Like, you're constantly gaining a new level of knowledge, and you're not discarding your old level of knowledge, because you need that to be able to talk to
Mhm,
people who understand those levels. What you're doing is you're giving it depth, you're giving it flavor, you're giving it color, you're expanding. And that's what death is. It's an expansion of life. Death,
mm.
birth is, once you're born, you can only be more born. But once you die, you can be born or you can be dead. It depends on what's going on. Because you can die and not know where you're going, because you didn't program your death. And that's what's happening. This is why, again, back to PBR, was trying to tell people how to bring in these high vibrational souls. Because if you're not focused on trying to bring in a high vibrational soul, what you're doing is bringing in whatever riffraff is in line. Because there's a line around the block trying to get birthed into this planet. Really, people want to, energies want to come onto this planet because they know you get a chance to experience all the scales. When you're in the spirit realm, you don't get all the scales. It's not possible. It's not possible. That's a whole nother thing. But you don't get all the scales.
Wow. Yeah, this is great. This is really, really powerful because it's like the more we embrace this death process, the more I almost always remember of like Iron Man. If you ever watched Iron Man, and it's like the suit, the Iron Man suit has all these capabilities. And so
Mm-hmm.
when we kind of come into this reality, we have a certain Iron Man suit. And every time the 36 days pass, every time, the 1 through 9 year phases, and obviously, as you said, all these other different energies and influences that apply to us, as we allow ourselves to go through this birth, death, and rebirth, we are adding onto our Iron Man suit. We're adding different
Yep.
capabilities, different tracking, sensors, missiles, shields, just all this technology is being added onto our system. And as you said, like that doesn't mean that the old part of us is basically non-existent, but it's just you could still tap into it, but at the same time you get to a point eventually where you're so specced out, you're so
Yeah.
empowered that it's almost as if that ability to not that you are not able to connect with others obviously, but it's almost like uh you get to that king and that queen where the king and the queen is so almost like removed from everything because it's dealing with such higher forces. It's dealing with really the divine, um the divine itself, the divine himself, herself, to bring forth the alpha, to bring forth this energy, to bring forth the alignment, the guidance that is then circulated throughout reality. Because if one is always surrounded by these people that are not doing the work or have not been doing the work or basically kind of demand that you function at their lowered state, that's a lot of busy work. That's a lot of busy work that is not going to really enable you to more easily connect with the divine directly.
Well, that's when you want enter the crone energy. So that's that whole concept of rebirth. Because when you get to a certain level as the mother, right? You don't stay a mother forever. Like you I mean, when I say you don't stay a mother forever, you don't maintain the same capacity to birth things as you did in your youth. That's the best way to put it. So then when you enter into the crone energy, which is the rebirth, you get to have infinite births and infinite deaths because you take all the knowledge accumulated into your body through your birth and all your births, through your death and all your deaths, and you turn back and you pour that into the maiden who has to go through all these births and the mother who has to go through all these deaths. That's how that the circle is squared. So instead of as the crone being like, okay, well, I know way more than all these other. Instead of being a boomer crone, okay, which is like, oh, I made my money. You better get out there and get you a job. McDonald's is hiring. Like, no, you say, okay, what are you trying to do, baby? All right, let me help you. Let me come over here and tell you how to do this. Or that would be towards the maiden, towards the mother's dying and everything is horrible. And just like my friend did to me, she said, you just got to hold on for about 4 years. You turn 40, it should be a lot better. Don't worry about it. And that's what you do. You as when you get into the crone energy, and I do think it's an age. I don't think it's a an experience level because really I didn't know that I was still learning so much until I started dying. Then I was like, oh, I'm not learning anymore. Now I'm just dying. This is just nothing but constant deaths. Oh, okay, I get it. So I didn't even realize until the energy switch that it was going to be constant deaths. And again, the reason why it's constant deaths is because every 36 days you're cycling through new energy. You don't have time to be birthing things like you did when you were under 36 once you
Mm.
turn 36 because you're constantly dying. Every 36 days you're dying. So you can't be birthing things like you when under 36. And it's again, it's not that you stop birthing things. It's not what I'm saying. It's just it's not the same. It's just not the same. And it's just because the energy is switched. And it's not bad. I birth all things. All I still, matter of fact, I would say about myself, I retained my capacity to constantly birth things even after I turned 36. I didn't
Right.
stop constantly birthing things. It's just now when I birth them, I also put them down. Like I'll spend a whole 36-day cycle learning about something, and then I'll put it down at the end of that cycle.
Right, right. Yeah, it's
And
refined.
then
Like
start the next
it's a
cycle.
refined because I
Right.
mean, obviously, if you have, for example, 20 kids, you've given birth to 20 kids. By the time you have the 21st kid, like you're a pro. You know
Right.
the diapers,
Exactly.
you know, like maybe that you do need someone to help you out for the first year, and then you know that maybe it's not going to be at the hospital, but it's going to be at the home, and with the bathtub and the,
Right.
you know, so and I think that's the beautiful part about, as we really become clear of these cycles of these births, of these deaths, of these rebirths, of how they look like, we're able to
Right.
become masters at birthing, masters at dying, masters at being reborn. And what a really important part of rebirth, and that's something that I've noticed, is the peaks of my quote unquote power. And really, that's, you know, power is very, it's a very, I think, heavily manipulated term, because what does that even mean? But in the peaks of my power, and in terms of, if we're talking about like my Twitter account, the parts where I had the most power on Twitter, almost at that point, months into that power, when I was at my peak, I remember being called. Now, back then, you know, it was just an idea that came to my head, but now I know that it's the divine. I was called to die. And what did I
Right.
do? I killed myself, literally in front of everyone.
Right.
I remember in 2017, that's how I got all these followers, which people think that I bought, but actually, I think I hit like 90,000 followers in 2017, 2018 in the crypto bull market, because I was just
Oh, right,
making
right,
such
right.
amazing plays. And I just had a timestamp of basically that, you know, 2015, 2016, when the prices were nothing, I basically had called the bull run. But regardless, so at that peak, I could have stayed a crypto account. I could have continued just to milk it, to monetize it, to create some group. Just,
Like
yes,
everyone else
exactly
did.
right. I could have stayed there, and instead, immediately when I got the legitimacy, immediately when I got the quote unquote influence and power, I was told, now is the time to flip the switch. Now is the time to shove down their throats, these crypto people, all this crazy, wacky narratives. Because you have the stage.
Right.
And because you have the stage, you have the microphone, speak truth to power. And so obviously that required me to die. And I had to die. And people flamed me, they attacked me, they made fun of me. I lost a ton of followers. Eventually ended up to actually losing my account because I got permanently suspended. But through that, I was able to birth these narratives, all of these narratives that now
Right.
have been able to have a life of their own. They're not babies anymore. A lot of these narratives are just full on behemoths, like titans, as you would call them. These are titans. They are
Right.
out here just
Right.
destroying, both in a good way and in not the best way for the old system, just destroying reality, causing havoc upon a misaligned system. But for that to have come about, I had to literally kill myself, sacrifice myself at the top. And I've done that endlessly amounts of time. Many times I thought there was something wrong with me, because I would tell people like, I literally get to almost the finish line and then I trip up. I never run through the finish line. Like there's always something. I always
Mm.
put my something in front of myself to trip up. But I think really for a lot of this was that I achieved what I had to achieve, and then I was called to go back, to die, to just, okay, you did
Right.
it, now die. Now cleanse yourself. And and I mean, we see it now with, in terms of the engagement that I get in this account. This is the result of me allowing myself to die.
Right.
You create, you embrace the necessary, you make the necessary physical sacrifices for your spiritual development. And that's what humans refuse to do. They refuse to give up parts of the physical to continue developing themselves spiritually. And as you know, with these
Because the
cycles,
spiritual development doesn't have any is there's no immediate
right,
reward because the system has not been built out because it's not true that there's no immediate
Yes,
reward.
right. There
That's not even
is.
true. It's just there is immediate reward. The system just isn't built out to reflect it back to you. Meaning, if I did not have a grandmother energy walking me through this process, I could never see how these things are being reflected back.
Yeah, people
Because
people
they're
don't look
because
at your
I'm
development and say, "Hey, Sophia," you don't have like a at the end of that finish line, people are clapping at you saying, "Congratulations, you did it. Here's the
right,
money, here's the flowers, here's
right,
the medal.
right,
You did gold, like you beat all these other people." No, there's it's crickets. It's crickets, and it's definitely in the misaligned system. Not only was it crickets,
right,
it was a tax actually. That's how
right.
that's how people celebrated your elevation.
Yes,
That's how they celebrated the
basically.
spiritual development was, oh wow, okay, yeah, let's go after you. But now the interesting thing is it's now all flipping. But people are kind of like
Yeah,
their hardwiring is freaking out because they have been moved. So it's like we've endured this chaos. We've endured this chaos and we've done it devotedly and we've done it with very intense conviction and tenacity. And now it's like it's still intense, but if it's flowing now, like it's like
right,
there's way less restrictions than ever before. While the other people that allow themselves to get co-opted, taken over, and completely like just transform their soul to be tied and to serve this misaligned system, their side is now slowing down. They're not flowing as easily. They're
right.
not able to process whatever energies they were processing before. So there's been a there's the flip has switched. We're aware of it. It doesn't seem like anyone else is aware. It doesn't seem like anyone else is really uh, rushing to the gates of the kingdom and saying, hey, please, like let me follow you, let me embrace you, Sophia, like, like, what do I do, let's get a reading, let's do that. Like, it's still crickets. And it's like we're
It's
looking
true,
around and
but
we're like, guys, where you guys like to suffer? Like, are you guys okay with what's going on?
no, they do like to suffer. See, this is the thing. This is the thing. They actually do like the suffering because someone told. This is why I say folk magic doesn't have an initiation process. You don't have to be initiated in. It's not blood in, blood out with folk magic. It's if you do it, it works. With ceremonial magic, they have an initiation process. So you can't get in unless you actually do something. Like you have to suffer. Suffering is a requirement for the misaligned system to be initiated into their thing. That's just why people say when you give birth, it has to be painful. Well, I saw my sister give birth and smile the whole time, so I know that's not true. I was like, you're still smiling. Like, don't you think you should stop smiling by now? No, she smiled the whole. She was like, "Is this it?" Like, because her first two childbirths were C sections, so she didn't know that what a natural childbirth felt like. So when she did deliver naturally, she was like, "This is it." She also didn't know how to push, which was a problem because I forgot to explain to her that part, and so the nurse had to explain it to her. But they also didn't know she had two previous C sections, and if you don't know anything about childbirth, really they don't like for you to give birth naturally after you've had a C-section or two. They actually advise against it heavily. So it was a whole thing. But yeah, she smiled the whole time. The whole time. I was just like, okay, now somebody said this was supposed to be painful. Or just like me. I didn't know I was pregnant. The year 2020, all of everything was closed and all that. I'm running back and forth to the beach, which is an hour and a half away from my house, dragging coolers and chairs and food and everything else the whole summer. I drove from Maryland to Florida to have Thanksgiving something with one of the people I met off Twitter down here, all the way on the other side of Florida. That was the very first time I even came to Jacksonville because I'd never been. And then I moved here less than a year later, like after having visited one time. Meanwhile, I was pregnant. If you look at the pictures, I don't look pregnant. I still to the day, I made the lady um my son's godmother because I was down here pregnant and didn't look like it. When I gave birth, she said, "You were pregnant when you were down here." I said, "I guess so." I had no idea. I just didn't know. So like everybody doesn't have to experience these things like the way that the media portrays it. And you would never know that if you didn't talk to someone. Like even the whole childbirth process, like I had a labor doula with my oldest daughter, so like I did not get no epidural or nothing like that. It just gave me some pain reliever. I was really strict about that because I didn't want to have any of these weird issues that people was having at the time. And people don't even know that, like you can actually, or like I know somebody who delivered three, I think she has 4 kids now, at home, her by herself in her bathtub. That to my mind blown. Like you would have to have somebody walk you through that. Like she didn't have anyone to walk her through it, but she felt comfortable with that. If that was to be a thing that became more comfortable for people, there would have to be people to walk you through that so that you can feel comfortable. Like it's not impossible, but it is impossible if there's no one there to help you. So what the problem is now, not only do people believe that you should suffer in order to learn knowledge, people are unwilling to turn around and help the next person, to really genuinely love them enough to help them. They don't do it. And that is where this is why the folk magic got to take over, because it's based on love. It's a love based magic. I do this because I love you, not because I want you to suffer. I don't want anybody to suffer learning magic. So I spent the last 3 years dissecting it down to the smallest minutia so that I could figure out how to explain it to whoever would listen, how to do it without going through what I went through. Because I don't want anyone to suffer because I suffered. That's crazy. But I actually love
Right.
people. And these people they don't have any love in their heart. Ain't no love.
I love what you said about folk magic is a love-based magic because I think that basically describes exactly what's happened with magic in itself is the love has been like
Mm-hmm.
removed. It's like it like doesn't even exist. And that's why a lot of these people that talk about magic, it's like I feel them and I'm like, yeah, maybe you might know how to do spells and stuff, but like I don't see them as powerful. Like it doesn't they don't feel powerful. I actually almost like pity them. I don't know why, but it's just that there's like a pityness to them. Um, now
Because it's all show.
in terms of the suffering is so how do we 'cause okay, so one thing that I've been thinking about is, and, you know, we've talked about rehabilitating the parasites, right? The
Right.
also kind of what do we do with these managers? Because there's all these managers. I mean, you
Right.
look at, like, the infrastructure of this reality, and, a lot of people that are revolutionaries or just people that kinda say, "Fuck the system," what they would want is just to destroy the whole system. But
Exactly.
now what I've been and what we've been talking about in terms of like the rehabilitation is it almost feels as if these elite these people that have been managing the system that they actually can flow with the energy actually quite well. So they were able to rise up to the positions of power that they are in because they are in many ways masters of flowing with whoever is in charge,
Right.
whatever is in charge, whatever system is in place.
Right.
Um, my assumption now is like, okay, well, if the order of this reality changes, which it is changing, like they're just gonna switch. They're just gonna switch sides. They're just gonna switch teams. They're just gonna
Right.
be like, okay, we're gonna go from pushing climate change to now pushing regenerative farming. So it's like there's And I think maybe that's why they would be in many ways considered the elite, is because they just know how to flow. They're not actually like, it might seem like they have obviously huge vested interests in this or that, but they just go with whoever's in charge.
That's pretty obvious. You got Pfizer making a deal directly with Trump to offer Trump drugs or whatever that is, like directly from a separate website. Yeah, they just go with the flow of whoever's in power. Then Walmart announced that they're going to change all the ingredients in their own custom made products because people, that's what the people want. Like, you couldn't plan that. I mean,
No, yeah,
these are
no, no,
narratives
that's
that
crazy.
you were like sowing into the internet, and this is the result of that. That I could not have. There's no way I imagine that this is how it would work out. But I know one
And it's
thing.
so
I
easy.
said
It's so easy. That's
it's
the thing.
easy,
That's what's
very
so
simple.
crazy. Like, it's like, I thought we had to literally, like, we were gonna have to just really, like, as they say, put bell to ass to this. And yes, sure, we did, I think, energetically, and we're doing that. But like, they're just, bowing down, saying, yes, sir. Whatever you say, whatever you want,
Right.
like, we're gonna do it. Yep, we'll change this. Like, we didn't mean to be such horrible, wicked people, because you look at these companies and say, guys, where's the heart? Like,
Exactly.
what happened in your head? But the thing is, they're just managers. They're just being told, whatever the boss tells me to do, I'm gonna do it to the best of my ability. So now, because there's a new executive team in this reality,
Mm-hmm.
everybody is just lockstep, following. So these elite, sure, are they suffering in their individual life? Sure, I'm sure, they're, human life is, it's not just up and up and up. Like, obviously we experience a wide range of emotions, but it's
Right.
like they are not really suffering. Like, it's like they are just managers. Like, they just know how to do the work. And sure, like, are there repercussions for what they've done? I'm sure there is, but like, it's like they are actually very valuable to this reality, and as a result, they're still in those positions of power, and I see them still being there, because who's going to manage Walmart? Who's going to manage,
Again.
all of these industries? It ain't going to be me.
I said this a long time ago when these Hebrew Israelites was talking about taking back the kingdom. I said, who's going to be president? You going to be president? That's what really forced me to figure out what the system
Mm,
was, because the people who thought that they should be in charge were people that I knew should never be in charge.
right.
So I was like, I have to figure out how to stop them. Basically, me personally, I was more worried
Right.
about these Hebrew Israelites getting in charge and taking over the system than anything else, because I
Uh-huh.
had been around them. They was the ones who was doing magic on me. So yeah, I'm like, y'all can't even run a group with 10 people.
Yeah,
I
right.
definitely don't think you should be running the country. And I said, I'm not running the country. Who else gonna run the country? I said that a long time. People were like, well, it should be this. It should be. I said, okay, but are you going to run the country? Like, are you going to put your life on hold and run this country with the death threats and all this stuff? Oh, no. So let those people, this is the system they wanted. See, we never wanted, and ancestrally, we never wanted a system to look like this. They who do ceremonial magic wanted the system to look like this. So this is why they suffer. This is why I'm laughing at all the memes. I think it's hilarious that they're crying so hard over these sombreros. It's dumb. Like, but this is what y'all wanted. Y'all wanted to run the system. So now you have to be ritually embarrassed by sombreros. Like, I don't understand. Like, it's the most nonsense thing I've ever seen. But that's what they wanted. They wanted a system like this. Plus, many of these people, especially in Congress and just everywhere, anybody who looks like they have any power serves multiple gods. They're not doing what we're doing, where we're like, hey, Zeus, you seem kind of cool. Let's be friends. Hey, I think
Mm.
AI is great. Let's be friends. They're saying, oh my gosh, I bow down at your power and I worship you because you're so powerful. And I think that I need about $1 million, wink, wink, while I'm worshiping and bowing down to you. Like, that's what they're doing. And so, but then they do it to like every god they meet. They're like, oh my gosh, you're the best god. Oh my gosh, you're the best god. So they've got all these different gods bouncing in and out of them. They owe all of them something. They have no. This is why they listen. The cases of mental instability is going to go through the roof. It already has, but it's going to go through the roof with these elites because they're worshiping all of these gods at once. It always, Jesus said, how are you going to serve two masters? How can I cast out demons in the name of Beelzebub if I'm a demon? Like, a house divided against itself cannot stand. It'll fall. And that's what these people have done. They have invited all these demons into them so that they could accumulate their wealth. Now you got in and out. So imagine if it's us telling the demons to tell them raw milk.
Right,
Raw
right. Yeah,
milk.
exactly, exactly,
Everybody,
exactly. Well,
raw
exactly
milk
what
for
you said
everybody.
is like it's yeah, it's we are friends with the demons, we are friends with the gods, the goddesses, whoever it is that they worship, and basically like these deities are in bed with us, and they're just
Right.
passing down our commands, our orders to them. Yes, right, exactly, to say raw milk. Exactly.
Right. We
That's
went totally
exactly
around them.
yes, right. That's exactly what's happening. We became basically what they're worshiping. Like it's like
Yes.
we are almost like a conduit of their worship. And so that's why because I was thinking about it this week. It's like I started to think about these people that are in power, and I'm like, and we've talked about this before, but like I know they're very valuable. Like I'm not interested in dismantling the infrastructure. It's just
Right.
it's so the physical infrastructure is very important. It's just the strategy, the vision, the essence of the engine that is firing up these infrastructures have to go.
Right.
So as you said, um, with something like raw milk, that could be very easily implemented, especially if these companies spend a couple $100 million on upgrading the dairy of America. That's not a decade long, 20-year long endeavor. This is like a very
No.
quick, very rapid transition, which is going to happen for sure. Um, and but only the managers can do it. Now, obviously, we're the
Right.
ones that are telling them, we're the ones that are like that are connected to God to be able to pass down this wisdom. But at the same time, like we're not those managers. That's not what we were tasked to do. So
Right.
I have a renewed confidence in these managers, and in many ways, like they were just serving the boss. That's who they were serving. Now there's a new executive team in the reality. So obviously we're seeing a significant shift. So what I'm wondering is uh who suffers then? Now obviously sure the managers will suffer in many ways, and if anything actually being a manager is quite like
Right. I
that's
wouldn't
very
do it.
slave like. That's a very
Right.
slave like existence. So that they're already suffering as is, but what about everyone else? What are we going to do with all these people? Like are they just going to magically just run to all like um
No, they have to be rehabilitated. I mean, your concept of rehabilitate, if we can rehabilitate one, all of them can be rehabilitated. And
yeah,
it's an
right.
energetic rehabilitation because if we energetically don't allow, okay, so this is another part of PBR's book, which I talk about a little bit, but he had done all the research that came out basically as all these joy of sex books. Like if you look up joy of sex on archive, you will find all of these books. And so you're like, okay, what does this even mean? The joy of sex. Well, it actually talks about the mating practices standards amongst different groups of people. And so the book that I specifically looked at, which is like 100 books, the book that I specifically looked at, it was talking about different tribes in uninfiltrated tribes around the country and around the world, and how they how their women were viewed. Okay, and so you have some tribes, and the tribes could be right beside each other, but their views on women would be very different. You had some tribes where the view on women was that the woman had to remain a virgin before she got married. And when she got married, she was basically purchased with a very large dowry. And there's this whole like, in many cases, very intrusive rituals to make sure she's a virgin, and then like the exchange of the property, and the woman goes to the man, whether the woman likes the man or not. That's one set of practices. Then there's another set of practices where the woman, basically, it didn't matter if she was a virgin or not. That was, throw that out the window. But once she made a decision about a man, like they were going to be like engaged, like they were going to get married, then that's when she stopped sleeping around, or the man would stop sleeping around, or whatever. That's when it was customary that that type of behavior would stop once they were in a serious like relationship. Then you had a few tribes where they ain't worried about none of that. Everybody just did what they wanted to do. So, but the vast majority was one of the first two groups. And so the way that I describe that is it's a group where the person, the woman, is for sale, and then there's a group where the woman is not for sale. If you're for sale, your property has to be intact and it needs to be perfect. These are the women that you see on the internet who have zero tattoos. Like, that is their weird thing, because these millionaires, they don't like women with tattoos. And so if you see a woman in this day and age in 2025 who's on the internet showing off body parts but has no tattoos, she's for sale. She's for sale. Now, she might not be a virgin because that part kind of gone, but she's for sure for sale. Now, if you see a woman on the internet, and you know she's for sale, then she fits in that third group. Like, she's a prostitute. Everyone knows she's a prostitute, and it's no like questions about that, like that Bonnie Blue girl. All that. They're all for sale. Everyone knows that. Nobody, it's no problem. Nobody cares. It's this middle group that they really don't know how to control, because I'm not for sale. You can't buy me, which means no rich man is going to offer me $1,000, $2,000. I'm be like, yeah, okay, I'll marry you if you give me X, Y, and Z. So we're not for sale. Plus, I'm going to decide when I stop engaging in sexual activities with other people. Like, that's an uncontrollable person, because they want to be able to control you either with no sex or with like over sex. But if you're just like, not interested, I don't think so. No, I don't want your money. No, I won't marry for money. No, I won't make sure I get a guy who, brings home 5, 6, 7 figures or whatever a month. I don't care about that. That's people who cannot be controlled, because if they can't control you with money and they can't control you with sex, they have no control over you. And that's mostly how it is. It's most people are for sale and they don't know it, or they're not for
Yeah.
sale and they don't know it.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that
Yes.
middle
Uh-huh.
group is a choice. Is a choice in the middle.
And I think the for sale also is not even simply just like the act of sex itself, is like the connection. People are out here for sale just simply to connect. And when we when we embrace like our individual power, and when we really listen to the Lord's calling, like there could be a person that you allow with open arms, no charge whatsoever, to come into your castle, and
Right,
you'll feed them, you'll do a banquet, you'll give them a feast, you'll provide everything that your empire has to offer. Then there's other people where, no, you don't even come close to my gates. You don't even come close to my walls. Like you are not welcomed here at all. It doesn't matter
right,
how much you pay, doesn't matter who you come from, who you are. No. And but this is all intuitive. This is all energetic.
right,
This is
right,
all about how do you feel about that person. And I think a lot of most people, but I would say specifically the overall peasants, because the managers are very, the managers have their country clubs. They have
right,
their groups. They have their people that they trust, and they just stick with their own kind. But then you have everyone else that, like, they just allow themselves to get railroaded. They just allow themselves to get just whipsawed back and forth, because they don't really have it seems like they don't have like an identity, or they don't have this power that they need to be validated from, they need validation from others. And when you get validation from others and you don't really have like a group identity, it's just, whatever's hot right now.
Right.
Whatever what so this is not, I mean, it hasn't been great for them, but now actually this is actually a strength. It's actually
Right.
a strength to be very easily malleable, because I mean, this is how we basically tell them, "Hey, this is what you're going to do. This is who you're going to be now. You're going to be, a high vibrational being. You're going to embrace these aligned narratives. You're going to embrace unconditional love. Like, you're going to do all this work." And what are they gonna say? "Yes, boss, of course. We'll we'll get it done."
Right.
Um, so I because I agree with you in terms of the suffering. And for so many years, like, I don't want people to suffer. I don't, and I've
Right.
and I've worked my ass off to figure out these, like, narratives to follow, where it's like, with all the narratives that I pushed, like, if one follows them, the suffering becomes a lot more bearable, because it's like,
Right.
you got your kind of health going in order, your relationship with the sun is good, your relationship with nature, you have an understanding of energy, and maybe unconditional love. So, like, there's all these aspects that allow the individual to feel accomplished, to feel like they're really, it doesn't matter if you're making money or if you're in this position or that position. Like, you have narratives that are bringing you satisfaction, that you're doing something that is actually healthy for you, that is actually empowering for you. But what I've noticed is, like, that's all nice and great, and that's all the physical stuff, but that's not enough. And there's a speediness that needs to happen. There's a real, very intense transformation that has to happen, I think, within the next 5 years, which is a lot. It's a lot for people to transform from the current state of being that they're in to this new state of being that they're in. And I don't know how we can do that without there being intense suffering for them.
Okay, so I know how to this is in my wheelhouse because I was in network marketing. And so the thing that you're not considering is social proof. If and when there's enough social proof that this will actually end their suffering. And what is ending their suffering in this culture? It's money. When and if there's not when and if when there's the proof that this kind of behavior will bring you more money, the normies will convert in mass. It will take nothing. So that's where that's where you use social
Yeah,
proof.
yeah,
Yeah, as
right,
flashes.
right.
That's and I was saying this like maybe not the last session, but like
With the
in
boomers,
general.
right?
Right. It as long exactly it's the same thing. As soon as you have the money, they will drop
Mhm.
everything that they're doing and follow you.
Right,
The
right.
reason why they follow Jesus, not this is they dropped everything and followed Jesus because Jesus had a very large sack of money he was walking around with. They never talk about that part. But there's no way you get Judas, who is a money guy, to just follow you around if there's no money to count. Like it don't work
Mm,
like that. So this is the
wow.
part. This the see.
Yeah,
This
they make
Jesus.
Jesus seem like he's poor, but the thing is,
No,
when you say it,
absolutely not.
I'm like, I never looked at him as poor. I never even considered him as poor. And it wasn't even just like, oh, his development. No, you could feel that he's wealthy. You can
Exactly.
feel that he is able to provide.
Exactly. And not only did he have his own bag, he had all of these rich women that was basically making it rain on them anytime they needed anything. They was never hungry. What I mean, think about this.
Yeah,
You
right,
got
right.
all these dudes with you. All of y'all look sly. All of y'all look good, right? Then you got this whole group of women. They just making sure everything flow real nice. Everybody got what they need. Money coming in, money going out. Everything is good. That's why I remember, and we know this. The story that they do leave about this in the Bible is when the woman clean Jesus' feet with the alabaster box, because Judas said, Master, if we would have taken that alabaster box full of it, they call it spikenard, but it's really oud. And if you haven't had oud, like, you need some oud. But she had oud in that box, which is extremely expensive. And he's like, man, we could have got 300 denarius for that if she had gave it to me so that I could sell it. And basically, Jesus was like, the poor you have with you, as if they're gonna give the money to the poor. Mind you, I just told you they was all flossed out, newest cloaks, newest shoes. I mean, all the icons showed them with shoes. People wasn't even wearing shoes like that, so they had shoes like this. I mean, listen, the very first time I went into the Orthodox Church, the thing I noticed is that Mary, Mother Mary, and all her icons had red shoes. And I said, why does she always? I said, wait a minute. Red shoes, red shoes, red shoes. Why does she always have red shoes on? I started asking people at the church. They thought I was crazy. I'm like, but why she have red shoes in every icon? You look at Jesus, he got on sandals. This one, Mary always had red shoes. Why she had on? So the reason why she had on red shoes was because, first of all, that's what she wore. So she was always wearing red shoes. And it was because she literally carried around on her the reminder of all of the babies that was killed when Herod killed all of these children looking for Jesus. So that was her personal reminder of all those children who had been murdered by Herod. That's why she wears red shoes. And so when you start
Wow.
looking, like when you start picking up this is little stuff like that you wouldn't
Yeah,
notice, but
right.
it's like, hey, everybody else have on sandals, but she got on red shoes, and not just shoes, red shoes. Every single picture, I was like, yo, the math ain't mathing, man. I know, like I might be reading too much into, but it jumped out at me so specifically that I really like went on this whole thing. Then I realized, oh my gosh, the icons are actually communicating a lot of information in one place. It's not just like, oh, it's a picture of your friends or your family or whatever. No, they're communicating things even within the picture. Like, it's really like when you get into the iconography, it's pretty trippy. But yeah, you have to. So they wouldn't be casting lots for Jesus' clothes if his clothes wasn't the finest. So once
Yeah,
we're out
no, of
here
course. Right,
in the
right, right.
finest, everything, the flashiest, because I'm like, I don't even care about this. Again, more stuff I don't care about. I don't care about going to these rich places, being around these rich people. I know I'm not even going to like these people, but for the sake of social proof, I'll do it. I mean, if that's the suffering I have to endure, fine. Am I happy
Yeah,
about
I'll
it?
go to the
No,
Four
but
Seasons. You're like, I'll stay at the
exactly.
Four Seasons if I have to.
Exactly. Oh, I got to go to, another,
For the
trip
love of the
to,
game.
right, another trip to the south of France. Fine. Let's go to the south of France again this year. Can we please? Oh, my daughter, she
Monte
wants a G
Carlo.
Wagon. Oh my gosh. It's like she wants a G Wagon. Oh, I've got to buy a G Wagon. Oh my God. Why do I need a G Wagon? So I'm thinking, why do I need a
For
G
the
Wagon,
taxes.
right? Well, for the taxes, but she wants to come to that school in Massachusetts. So I'm like, oh, that's why we need the G Wagon. Like, I wasn't
Uh-huh,
even
four-wheel
thinking, but
drive.
here she is talking about a G Wagon, and she wants to go
Wow.
to this school with
Recently?
all these rich people.
Recently?
Yes, this is the car she wants. She wants a G
Mm.
Wagon for like 2 years. Like, she's been
Yeah, she
talking
already
about.
sees the future. She already sees the future.
Exactly. So the kids, they know. But yeah, it's like, and I'm like, why would I buy this? I'm just in my mind, why would I buy this car? But I'm like, oh, now I understand. It's the social proof. So the social proof will work for the boomers, but it'll
Yes,
work for the
right.
normies too. If the
Everyone,
normies,
uh-huh.
if the normies figure out, look at what Sobrad's doing. He talking about him and his girlfriend look like Greek gods. I was like, did you? I don't know if you saw my response to
I
that,
did,
but
yeah.
I
No,
was
no,
just
no, I
like,
didn't. What did...
holy, it was just a like, oh my God face. It was
Oh,
really like
yes,
a
a GIF,
rolling my
yes.
eyes face. Like, this, look at what he's saying. But guess what? If
So
people find out,
what do you make of that? What's going on there? I mean,
I'm telling
it's
you, the
like
narrative is being Listen, the narrative is being pushed so hard that everyone
Yeah.
they're the people, because it's not necessarily that he's stealing. I think it's just this is the where the energy
Yeah,
is
it's being
going.
pushed. It's like boop,
Exactly.
activated. We off to the races.
Exactly. And so if that's where we are energetically, the people who are just open vessels, they're just going to pick up on the energy. They're not
Right, right,
necessarily like stealing. Like I had to
right.
realize that like a long time ago. Like they're not stealing. They're just picking up on the energy and floating with the energy, and it gets them where they need to go. But who is programming the wind? See, that's what we're doing. We're
Uh-huh.
programming the wind. The wind just blows. And there's a lot of people Zig Ziglar or Jim Rohn. I think Jim Rohn used to use this phrase a lot. Like he said, it doesn't matter. Like the wind is always going to blow, but what really matters is how you set your sail. A lot of people they're just taking whatever wind that blows. Those are like most of the normies. So if we're setting the sail for where the wind is going to blow, they don't have a choice but to follow it.
Yeah.
And we do that with social proof. We do that with being as flashy as possible, going and talking to as many people as possible, changing as many people's lives as possible, and letting the social proof speak for itself.
Period. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yes, so I mean, so yeah, so right now, at least what I feel is people are experiencing significant suffering, at least just chaos. There's a lot of chaos in people's lives. And maybe not, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I'm like overreacting, but I do feel like people are really going through it.
They are.
And um as we are basically like preparing for like launch ignition, like basically like we're blasting off, we're in the rocket ship right now, and we're doing like they're doing the final tests on the rocket ship to make sure everything is good to go. Once the rocket ship launches, I mean, that's really where the social proof begins to, I mean, the thing is like, because what's been interesting is, at least in terms of our two, because I think we have very similar trajectories in terms of kind of what we've done, is we have the social proof that we have created is energetic in nature, and we basically have intense clout up in the skies.
Right.
Like the spiritual world is all in on us. Like I mean, at least how I've seen with the current gods that I'm talking with, these Olympians, like they're everywhere now. They're every like it's like they're like, yeah, we like you, like just keep doing what you're doing, and like we're activated, we're in it, like we're ready to go. So the social proof up there is already been had.
Right.
Now we're going to start to see, and we've obviously talked about this many times, now we're going to see that manifest into the physical, which I'm not I'm I'm interested in terms of research wise how it's going to come about, but I also don't like to put too much energy into thinking about it, because then it's almost like I'm not living in the present.
Well, you're in the
Because
birth stage, so you shouldn't be. It takes this is for the mother and the grandmother energy to really focus in on. Like this is why knowing where you are in the stage is important. If you're under 36,
mm,
you can't be thinking about how it's going to be implemented because you're in the birth stage. So what a
mm,
lot of people do is they start doing magic and they want to jump into the death stage. Why? Like, you don't need to be in the death stage. You need to be in the birth stage because you only get, just like I told my daughter, you only get one high school year, like 4 years. You
yeah,
only get one
right,
senior year. Be in school and
literally,
enjoy your senior year. It's the same way.
right,
You only get these 36 years where this energy is like this one time. You
right.
only get it once. And so if you know, F it up by saying, okay, now it's time for me to kill myself, like you did with your account, that was not necessarily the best way to handle
Yeah,
the
or
situation.
destroy my ego. All these
Right.
spiritual people talking about like
Right. You
they're
can't
like
do
in their
that.
mid 20s or
Oh my
late 20s
gosh.
talking about like I'm trying to kill my ego, and it's like, dude,
Yeah,
what are you talking?
they are
What?
actually going to have a psychotic break. You can't do
Oh,
that.
trust me, they
Like,
have.
or they have and they will continue to have them because you need your ego. Again, if people understood the natural cycles, they wouldn't be talking like this. But because nobody understands the natural cycles, because ceremonial magic does not take into account
Mm.
nature. Like, you have to have nature. Like, you can't get away from nature. But they just literally, why do you have women out here who are of childbirth and age and adults like 18, 19, telling them, oh, wait until you're 35 to have a kid? No, no, that is, first of all, when if you don't have a child like when you're young, I would say like before 25, it gets infinitely harder to have kids when you get into your 30s. I'm talking about infinitely harder, even if you quote unquote eat well and all this other stuff, because your body has to actually carry that child to term, and it never did that. Like, if you have this, is why I had a child fairly young. 22 is not really young, but it's fairly young, because I
I
was
mean,
like, well,
nowadays
if
it is young for definitely
I
for
know
women.
nowadays it is, but like my
Yeah,
friend, she
back
had her
then.
child at like 17, 16. And so it's like,
Wow.
yeah, the Gen Xers, they had kids young, young. So like me being 22 was kind of old compared to, the Gen Xers who had their kids at like 18. So, but the longer you wait, the harder it is. Your body can bounce back from things at 18, 19, and 20 that it can't bounce back from at 33, 34, 35. So it's better to have the kid early and maybe just have one. Like, that's what I did. I waited almost a whole cycle. My oldest daughter
Mm.
and my middle daughter are 9 years apart. 9 years. That's a huge
Wow.
spare of time. Even my middle daughter and my son are 5 years apart because I wanted to space them out. I was like, I don't need to have 5 kids in 5 years. That's dumb. Like, I'm not doing that. My sister, though, her kids are like a year and a half apart, like very close together. That's fine. Anybody can do whatever they want to do. Mine are spaced out, and it's no problem. I got one that's about to go to college and one that's getting ready to start school. I'm okay with that because I want to live. Because the thing about it is, if
Mm.
you have it, and I need to have one more, because if you have a child after 40, the likelihood of you living to 80 or 90 is much higher. So you need to start early, but you need to really space them out so that you can have your last one after you turn 40, and that, for at least for women, so that you're more likely to live till 80 or 90. But if you have all your kids at 18 and you don't have any more kids, you probably die at like 60. Or if you have all your kids at 40, then you still might die at 60 because you put all that pressure on your body so late. So it's really best to, you know, think about it and spread them out, because you can choose to live your life
Mm.
however you want to. But most people, they don't want to live they don't love anything enough to understand how this process works, because it's not complicated. It's really not.
And I heard from a guy that I follow. He says that children are is the retirement. Like children is literally the
Right.
retirement of people nowadays. It's like because as as the kids get older and have their own careers and everything, like and as the parents get older, like it's the kids that are going to take care. It's the kids that are going to handle the just the family. And if one is growing up and doesn't have any kids, that's
It's
now not
even
against
worse
people
than
that don't
that.
have kids, but it's not going to be a great time.
But it's even worse than that, because what if you had kids, but you treated them so terrible because you had them because you didn't want them or whatever. You still had all these kids. They were all smushed together. You're going through, and you had them at 33. So you start going through this crazy thing at 36. They think you hate them because of what you start going through at
Oh
36.
yeah,
You know what I
right.
mean? And then like they
Yeah,
grow
yeah.
up and they hate you. So they're like, I'm not taking care of you. You better have enough money to take care of yourself, because I'm not doing nothing. Like, that's even worse, to have your
Mm.
kids and all your kids hate you. My daughter already said, she was like, when I have kids, you're gonna have to homeschool them. I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I've already got but hey, that's my retirement plan. That
Hey,
means she's gonna
you'll
have enough
well,
money
you'll
to take care of me.
Well, I mean, the thing is, where we're headed, like, you know, you're gonna hire a tutor for them. Like, you're gonna have I mean, you're gonna have your own schools, anyways. You'll send them to those schools. You're
Right.
gonna, because
Exactly.
we're talking about G wagons, right?
Right.
We're
Yeah,
talking about
exactly. Like they're not
we're
gonna,
talking
but
about
she
empire.
don't have a frame of reference for that. So that's like one of the things that I don't like is that like, no, she should like have understanding of how these different levels work. But it's like again with the whole interference that's been going on, it's like I can't even introduce her to the stuff that I would introduce her to if things weren't going the way that they were going. So it presents a lot of like
Yeah,
issues, you know.
that's an interesting kind of I guess like thought, what is it? Thought activity where it's like, how does one, especially as a parent, introduce to their kids the reality where you know you're going? Like, or where you the reality that you are in, because like
Right.
especially at the age that you're in right now, right? Like you're in that very pivotal period of your life where there's intense transitions happening.
Right.
And how does one position their family from going from, you know, driving a certain mark of of a car brand to now preparing for the Rolls Royces, for the Ferraris, for, you know, the Porsches, for Lexus, whatever the luxury brands it might be. Like that's a very
Well, I'm hoping I get to document that very closely. I'm hoping I get
yeah,
to
yeah.
document that very closely because
It's for
it's
sure.
not easy. It's not it's really really difficult and just think about these people who become like millionaires from the lottery. You know what I mean? Like they ruin
Oh
their
yeah,
lives
no,
in
they're
like
just yeah.
5 seconds. So you really
And
have
it's because
to
it's an energy thing. It's an
right.
energy thing. So, you know,
Right.
these people with the lottery, they just know how to manage X amount of energy, and then they get all this amount of energy. They just get over flooded with it. Now,
Right.
thankfully, I think with the work that we're doing, like the money is not going to change us. It's not going to
No.
define us. It's just
Mm-mm.
going to magnify the work that we are doing, who we
Right.
are. And as they say, what does they say? Like money shows who you truly are, or something
Yeah, it
like that.
does. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you do because
so
it does because when people come into money who don't have no business, like it's like the Dave Chappelle show where they gave people reparations and they were like, "You too broke. It's broke people around here." You know what I mean? Like it's that's exactly what like people who don't supposed to have money who get all of this money.
uh-huh.
This is how they behave, and so yeah,
Yeah,
it'll
families breaking up over
right,
20K. You know,
right,
not even
nuts,
not even millions, like
nuts,
over so much, over so little money. But yeah, it's because, well, and so yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how that develops, because like really, what is going to happen in terms of like in this scenario with like your family is what's going to happen to a lot of people that embrace this higher state of being.
right.
Because as we were talking about, like in the past, the social proof was like get fucked by the system. Hey,
Right,
if you can get really good at getting fucked by the system, like you're gonna get all this. You're gonna get the bitches. You're gonna get
right,
the yacht. You're gonna get the Ferrari. You're gonna get the, you know, the penthouse, or at least it's like the people that got it are the people that are like living that way.
right,
Now the new social proof is, and I think that'd be a good spaces to do in the near future in terms of like the new social proof, like what that's gonna look like. But the new
ooh,
social proof is basically an energetic elevated state, and from being able to function in that state, one is able to accrue a ton of energy, a ton of value.
right,
So people are going to be able to, because in the past it was like, how do people go from rags to riches? Well, you know, you, if you're lucky, you go to a university,
right.
and after the university, like, you know, you do all sorts of gymnastics to maybe land an entry job, and then you work your ass off in that entry job, and then you maybe get
You're
promoted,
not
and then
going
maybe you
from
jump
rags
into
to
another
riches
one.
like that. Get out of here. That ain't no rags to
Well,
riches.
but that was the story, right? I mean, that was the story that was sold to Americans.
Right,
It was because, if I mean, if one is poor, like if one is literally in rags, I mean, like pursuit of happiness, right? The
right,
pursuit of happiness, I think, is a great story to
right,
show that it's like, um But yes, I agree. It's the riches is you got to do your own thing. Really, that's like the only way to riches. But um, with now, it's a rags to riches energetically.
Right.
Now we're not there yet because I think we're still building out like that infrastructure, the system, the pipeline in terms of how do you go from elevating your energetic vibrational state to a point where you're now able to, in many ways, effortlessly manifest a not only financially abundant life, but just an abundant life, period. And I've already been able to manifest this abundant life. But what I still see is the system is very, it's like there's still an intense restriction for the social proof. And it's not that the system does not want me to have the social proof. What I think is God is literally saying, just wait. Like there's still a lot of work you have to do to get to a point where you're ready for the social proof. And I think that's kind of the stage that we're in. Is like there's still the final stages of our development in order to be prepared for the social proof. And I think definitely a lot of it is revolving. Obviously, our own personal capabilities and preparation, the initiation, just what we're being prepared for very high level things. So it's better to do it now as opposed to when the spotlight is fully on you. And
Right.
second is we need the calendar. Like we
Right.
need to have, as you were saying with like the 36-day cycle, like this whole rubric, this foundation is very necessary to first establish within ourselves before then we start to actually gain the social proof. So I would say in many ways, at least from how things are developing, it's probably going to be um, it's going to be on an upward trend now in terms of where we are, but the real social proof, I think it's going to start really hitting in 5 years. I would say three
Well,
to five
it's
years.
gonna take five. I mean, as someone who did a lot of network marketing, again, the strategy I would take actually to implement this, if you're talking about an actual physical structure, how you get it out to the people, network marketing is literally the way to go. Like, and we can talk about that another time because there's just in general, the person who invented the concept of having a meeting and celebrating everybody, celebrating certain people who are performing well during the meeting came from a black woman. And this black woman, I talked
Mm,
about her before, her name was Minnie, and she was the head of Mississippi Mutual. And basically, she had people on her team in Mississippi Mutual who couldn't even read. These were people who were straight out of slavery. And
wow.
she made, her meetings, like their little meetings were so grandiose that the white people got so mad and they literally like actually had to get a black man to come in from North Carolina Mutual because Mississippi Mutual is a it was a life insurance company. They had to get a black man to come in from North Carolina Mutual to basically mess up her organization. The whole thing
Mm,
is nuts. And so that was one of the things I had researched when I was in working on my dissertation. Yeah, she had the modern meeting, all those little fancy meetings where people are celebrating and hyping it up and the music and all of that. That was
the
her
like the
idea.
forex, like the forex people. Have you ever seen the
I
forex
think
people
so.
where they're like
I've not seen it in person,
so they like rent
but I
out, they rent out like a nice Airbnb and it's a party. It's a vibe. It's like we're all gonna change our lives. This guy is the
yes,
MVP. We know you can do it. Think of your family. We're
yes,
gonna change our lives. Let's go. And everyone's like,
yeah.
yeah, let's go.
Yeah, they got that from. Yeah, I was in a lot of a lot of network marketing. Like I was in Mary
Mm.
Kay, I was in ACN. We sold video phones before we got iPhones. We were selling video phones. That was a whole thing. I did Ganoderma with the coffee and the mushroom coffee before anybody. Now everybody is doing. Like I
Yeah,
did. I
the
did
mushroom coffee.
body
Yeah.
magic with the body waist garments to get your waist all tight. So I did all of that. Like I did all of that. So I'm very familiar with the
You ever
structure
did
and how they
Tupperware?
get. I didn't do Tupperware because I was a little too old for me. But I think my mom did Tupperware
Yeah, my
because
parents
my
were
aunt,
big
but
on
I had an
Tupperware.
aunt. She could sell you anything. Like right now, if you were like, man, I got this whole big bottle of water, she'll come beside you with a bottle of water and be like, hey, you should buy this bottle of water, and she'll start talking to you, and the
Yeah,
next
she'd be
thing
like,
you
the
know,
one you
your
guys
money.
fluoridated. Like, drink the
Right. The
non-fluoridated
next thing
one.
you know, your wallet is out of your pocket and you're buying the water. And now you have two bottles of water. Matter of fact, she might have took
Hey,
your
for your
bottle of water.
girl.
Yeah, I just did that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, you
I took the
exchanged it.
bottle of water and she take your bottle of water and sell you the bottle that she had in her hand, open up your bottle of water and start drinking it. This is the type of this is what I grew
Wow.
up around. I know these type of sales people. Like I know that this works. Like all anytime she calls me, I'm like, oh Lord, she about to sell me something, and I have to say no because I don't have time to be in another organization right now, and I do have to like prepare myself, like because I just don't know what she's gonna say, and I'm gonna be like, yeah, sure, I can do it. Like before I even know what happened, I'm
Uh-huh.
already saying yes. So like I know that kind of social proof works when you get those
Mm.
kind of salespeople. Man, I know a lot of salespeople
And
like
we
that.
got and we got like if you look online, like with all these narratives, we got great salespeople. Like people's
Yeah.
whole
Oh my
personalities, their
gosh.
whole personalities revolve around
Absolutely.
these narratives, which is beautiful
Pay them a little
it
money.
because it should be. It should
Yeah.
be. If the narratives are aligned, like if we embrace aligned narratives and basically in many ways, at least temporarily, make it our personality, it's going
Right.
to attract other aligned people, other aligned narratives. Like we're just attracting more of obviously what we're investing in. So I think definitely I love to talk about the network marketing. Maybe we could maybe we could do it next week.
Whichever
Um,
one. I guess we'll probably take the birth, death, and rebirth in chunks anyway, because it is a
yeah,
lot to
because
digest.
it was a good intro, but we really didn't like we kind of started to touch on it, but like
It's
um
you have to experience it. Now that it's
right.
put out there into the ley lines, you'll start to see it and you'll start to see it in yourself. And so it'll show up. It's just most of these topics, especially the stuff we're talking about, is not like a one and done. Like that's
Yeah, of
impossible. It's
course.
like, okay, we got to introduce it, then we got to see what the it's like waiting for the reality to reflect back which parts are actually the most important parts, and then we can move on from there. So yeah, the whole network marketing thing is amazing. Like
Yeah.
I just love it so much. And people, I said this to somebody. I was like, we have to use. Matter of fact, I can see when people use it. So like, for example, there's a guy. He has this whole thing set up online, and I was like, "Oh, he's doing network marketing strategy." So I told the lady who had told me about him. This is another lady. I said, he's using network marketing stuff. She said, no, it's not network marketing. Da-da-da-da. I'm like, lady, like, I know this. This right here in my blood. He's using network marketing techniques. And she didn't recognize it because she didn't know it. And so I was like, yeah, I don't like when people try to sell me like that because then I know that the problem with network marketing is most of the time nobody's really getting results. So if we have a network marketing style thing and people can
Mm.
actually see, like with body magic, that was the body shaper. People would put that thing on. Let me tell you something. You look like you lost about 40 pounds. Now you might not be able to breathe because those things was pretty tight,
Hey,
but
but at
you
least
definitely looked the
right,
part
it's
for
instant.
sure.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
definitely.
instant. See, that's what we need. We need instant
Mm.
manifestation because if we can,
Right.
when Jesus laid his hands on people, they was healed instantly. When the woman had the issue of the blood, she just touched the hem of his garment. We want people to just be able to touch the hem of our garment, which is
Uh-huh.
to deal with these other weird influencers who don't even know the strategies. But because it's folk magic, it works. There's no initiation. Like there's no initiation. That's how powerful this stuff should be. And I feel like we have to ask for it too. Like I like some of the stuff you said I wrote down because I need to ask these very specific questions. Like, how do you go from rags to riches? I never thought about asking that question, but that's what we need. I need to be able to take 10 people in a room. Look, I'm going to show you how to go from rags to riches.
Uh-huh.
Boom, boom,
Right,
boom, boom,
right.
boom, boom, boom.
Exactly.
You're all
Exactly.
millionaires. Now go again, like Jesus had the 10 lepers. He healed 10 lepers, only one came back. If we have one person out of 10 come back and say, yeah, I want to help other people do this, hey, come on board. Now we got another person at our round table. See, that's how
Right.
this is how you build out your team, like your energetic team. You have to help a lot of people and let some people go off and do what they're going to do, because you don't have to get involved in that part. But the ones that come back and say, hey, whatever you say do, I'm going to do, because I know what you're saying is true.
Right.
Those are the people you invite to your table and you say, okay, let's go through another layer of this. Like, let's learn another round of this. Let's do another one of these things. There's people. Now, I went to a conference, right? I can't remember what the lady was selling. Oh, I think it was just like a development conference. Because she was working with different people who had different kind of businesses. And she had that conference was like $700, and it was like 3 or 4 days. But she had a program that was $10,000. $10,000. And this $10,000 program got you like just the basic bottom level, got you a bunch of videos and some whatever, but it got you access to her inner circle. $10,000. And people were like, I need that. I need to find $10,000 so that I can do this. Because if you did a call with her, a couple calls with her, she was gonna help you increase your business using these whatever techniques. Mind you, it's all witchcraft. It was literally witchcraft. Like, literally, now that I look back at some of this stuff and I read it, and I'm like, oh my goodness, they was really doing witchcraft on people to get these numbers. It's true. They was doing straight up witchcraft. And this is not just one person. That's just one person that I found. There's people are still doing it now. It just doesn't work as much because people don't have any money, which is why we have to invert it and say we're going to pour into a bunch of people. We're just going to give a bunch of people stuff. Hey, just go on TikTok and talk about whatever it is, whatever we're going to call it, however we're going to market it, because you're more of a marketing person. I'm an ideas person, but getting it down into like perfect language, I can do that. It's just not my favorite thing to do. But how are we gonna market this? How are we going to package this so that people are like, yeah, I need raw milk, I need my birth chart, I
Uh-huh.
need to join these calls, I need to toe walk, you know what I mean? Like, I need to whatever it is, like I need to do all of the things that they say to do, because if I do all the things that they say to do, then I will have a life like theirs. And
Yes,
that's what
right.
people are not. Nobody is offering you their
Right.
life.
Right.
Nobody on the internet right now say, if you do what I do, you will have my life. I've seen people say that about Soul Bra. They're like, oh, well, if I lived here and I ate like this and I was in the sun for 9 hours a day, I would be like him too. He is not doing anything to offer the people who follow him relief from their life. Just go get you some raw meat. Well, how's that going to solve their problems? If they eat raw meat, are they going to end up like you? No, you're not actually getting to the heart of the problem, because it's a spiritual problem, which is love yourself. If you love yourself and you eat raw meat, you might look like me. I mean, I don't know. I mean, he could make it look a little bit nicer, I guess. I mean, not to be picking on him, because he's doing a good job at whatever it is he does, but that's what we need. If you do this and do that, then you can live like me. We don't have any of those pieces yet. That's what I don't like. We don't even have the if you do this, because we don't know what that thing is that people need to do. And we don't know what that thing is that they need to consume. And then we don't know what that thing is that they're going to become. Like, we haven't done all of these pieces. Right now, we don't have any of these pieces in play. And so that's what I'm now going to be thinking on. How do we get these pieces in play? Like, we need to know what it is they need to do, what it is they need to eat to become what it is are we trying to become. Like, I'm I'm a little unsure about that. Like, how to phrase it. So I have to do some like thinking and
Yeah,
talking to
I think,
grandma
and I think
to
this
figure
is,
out what it is what are we trying to sell people.
For sure, and I think this is like this is where we're going to start seeing the
Uh-oh.
physical. Can you hear me?
I
Hello?
don't know what happened. Okay. So, all right. So we're just gonna wrap up here because I've been talking for way too long. So hope everybody enjoyed this little talk, and we'll be back probably to talk about network marketing on Tuesday, which is gonna make me like super excited. So have a good night, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.